I'm Steve Shaw. I'm the Vice President of Product Management for the Citrix NetScaler product line. I'm only here to give some quick introductions. So we will be kicking things off with our CTO, Abhishek. So he's going to give you a quick high-level overview of sort of how we're seeing the world. We promise to keep that short and tight. We will then bring it back to me. I'll put some context around that as far as what our product is, what it does. I promise to keep that short as well. We then have a smart person coming on board. That would be Anil Shetty. He's our Vice President of Engineering. He has been here since nearly day one, written the code on the box, so he actually knows how it works. We have him saying far more useful and interesting things, so he's been given a bigger chunk of time. After that, I will touch on security and what we can do there. We'll bring it back over to talk about our recent announcement around containerization, what we're doing in the containerization landscape. We then have our SD-WAN product coming up with our chief architect on that, Marco Murgia. He'll come up, speak for a little bit, and we'll wrap things up with details on operationalizing a NetScaler. So for that, we actually have the biggest chunk of time allocated to Binod Gopal, who's been part of our field team now since, 99?
2000.
2000, give or take. So smart guy and fantastic speaker. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our CTO.
Thanks, Steve. All right.
Is it working? There you go.
All right. So let me get started. I know what you guys are thinking. You see a slide like this, it's got a mouthful of buzzwords on it, and you say, this guy must be the CTO. Well, I am. And I'm going to talk at a fairly high level, keep this G-rated as I like to call it. And let me throw a few more buzzwords at you, actually.
Make sure it's working.
Favorite slides that were
Apparently not. I'll just click for you.
Rated G. Right, come on. Get me to the next one. So here are a few more buzzwords. Now the thing with all of these buzzwords and the way 2016 and onwards is shaping up is that when I talk to our customers about it, it used to be like this is the kind of thing that other people do, and now it's become the kind of thing that they want to do. So every one of my customers is talking to me about, we want to get there, we want to do some of these things, but they are struggling a little bit. They are struggling with how they would get there. They don't see an easy path for getting there. And I spring on them a little bit of scripting, and I present this snippet of Perl, and I say, hey guys, you need to learn scripting, and really you are either going to get there in 5 years or you are going to be extinct. So how do you go about getting there? And the problem that customers are describing to me is basically twofold. First is that they want to make a 5-year bet. They want to talk about investments that they make today that will last them for 5 years, that would still be good 5 years later. And how do you do that if technology changes every couple of years? That's their first problem. Their second problem is that there are just so many choices in the infrastructure space right now. All of these different form factor, all of the different hypervisors that you could pick from with microservices and containerization and cloud and orchestration. There are just so many of these choices. Some of these are good choices and some of these are good looking choices. And it's really hard for a customer, especially with the kind of talent scarcity that exists today. It's really hard for them to figure out which one of these are the ones they should make a bet on. So I have an answer that I give to them, and that answer is very simply this. It basically is saying that we will allow you to change your mind. We don't force you to make these choices today. You make whatever choices you are comfortable with today. But if you go with the networking products that Citrix is building, then that allows you to, with a single code base, with a single piece of software that we have that runs all of this with an identical feature set, across all of these combinations, with a single API to control all of this. You can start in one place, you can end up in a different place. All of your familiarity and your know-how and your automation and your scripting, all of it is going to be transferable as you go from one point to another in your journey over the next 5 years. So that is my big point. And the question people ask me on that previous slide is that, well, this seems a little bit too good to be true and something must give. And what exactly are you, how exactly are you pulling this off? Because lots of people talk about the same kind of slide, but not many are delivering. And my answer to that is that it's simply the fact that networking is done better in software. It's something, you click on the next one. It's something that we have been doing not just over the last year or 2 years. For the last 18 years, we have been doing this. When NetScaler was founded 18 years ago, the premise of NetScaler was that we can do with a CPU what others at that time were trying to do with an NPU or a custom ASIC. For 18 years, cycle for cycle, we have had the fastest product in this space. And for 18 years, we have been living and breathing this. Our product is 100% software. You can cast it into any shape or form. It's fluid that way. And networking simply is better done in software. I go, in fact, a little bit further and say that everything that we do in networking at Citrix, you can think of it as a software-defined network function. And I was going to do the thing that networking guys do, like make an acronym out of it. And then I realized it's going to end up with something like CSMACD and not be it rolling off the tongue. So I took an alternate tack here and I said, I'm going to call this a minion. We are really talking about things that work in large numbers, that are software defined, and where the intelligence is centralized. And so now let me tell you my minion story. The minion story goes like this. We have got 4 or 5 of these different minions. We have got the NetScaler Gateway, which is a VPN product. We have the Application Delivery Controller. We have the software-defined WAN. And then we have the WAN optimization functions as well. We also have a few other functions. Now, you build all of these things in software. You run them into containers or virtual machines. All of that we have done. The next phase of this journey that we are currently undertaking is to build a layer of management around all of these pieces. This is a layer of converged management, and the G-rated way to put it, I know we have the R-rated version coming on next. The G-rated way to put it, if you click, is it simply takes a minion song on the left and it turns it into a string quartet on the right. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about service chaining over here. I'm talking about not just the configuration, but also the management, operations, logging, forensics, all of it taken care by a converged layer of management, so that you can compose these functions. You can compose these functions to build the construct that you are after, and you no longer have to rely on a vendor to do consolidation for you. You don't have to bolt a firewall onto an ADC because that's what a vendor thinks is the right thing to do. You can go best of breed. You can pick and choose these functions. You can stitch them together using the converged layer of management we have. We are also using the same capability to build a layer of services around it so that you complete this picture and you end up with my minion stamp. That's converged management, converged services with an army of minions in the middle. And this is, in summary, our software-first design strategy. So with that, if you have questions right now, I can take a few.
In the context of a G-rated response, which I think is great, and in the context of being a producer of the technology rather than a consumer, I know you're kind of both, but how would you define SDN in a kind of a short and sweet?
Now we have only 2 hours. The definition of SDN usually takes more than that. But see, in my world, especially at the layer 7 that we work in, SDN is simply the idea that you take the network functions and you impart agility and dynamism to those functions by centralizing the configuration, management, and intelligence around those functions. So that any given function becomes more and more stateless. And I can use the pet to kettle analogy. I think that will work well in this context. The functions are going to go from being pets to being kettle, so that each one of those functions is expendable, stateless. I can instantiate it, I can kill it. And then in the context of SDN, I take all of the intelligence, state, configuration, stitching together of it, and put it aside into a centralized place.